conversation. My name is Kris Kaim, and with me today is Dr. Vassilios Damiras. Today we're going to talk about Edward Snowden. Snowden has been in the news quite often for the last year since he essentially took refuge in Russia while exposing the American domestic spying program initiated by the NSA. Before we get into details about what Snowden had did, because this is such a broad issue and because this issue has been going on for such a long time, Vassilios, I wanted to get your take on what you thought of what you think of Snowden and basically how everything has been culminating to this point.
I think that the evidence indicates that he broke the law. He took an oath of office to protect the United States national interest. If he had some concerns or reservations, it's in a way to approach it via various security channels at the NSA. Yes, they're not perfect, but also that doesn't mean that you have the right to leave your post and give secrets to a potential enemy of the United States.
Well, it's interesting you bring up that he broke the law because I mean it's the reason why Snowden did what he did, according to him anyways, is that he wanted to preserve the Fourth Amendment, the unreasonable search and seizures of American citizens. And the reason, and he exposed this domestic spying program because he felt that it violated the rights and liberties of the American people. Now, one can argue, the thing is that Snowden has become something of a hero to many people of different political ideologies, especially in the United States. Here in the United States, he's become a hero to the political left, the liberals, the political right, the conservatives, the libertarians, the anarchists, the communists, the socialists, pretty much everyone with different political ideologies. It's amazing how you have people within, say, for example, and I'm just tossing it out here, people within the Occupy Wall Street movement, you know, could support someone like Snowden in the same way that people within the Tea Party support Snowden, and everyone has made that apparent. Meanwhile, you have people on the other side saying that he was a traitor, that he violated the trust that was bestowed upon him by the United States government and the American people because it was his job to preserve national interests while he was working within the intelligence community.
Well, I mean, obviously for political reasons, all these groups that will exploit Snowden. I believe, yes, we need to have a debate about surveillance, and especially on American citizens on American soil. But that doesn't give that you go out and support a traitor. I mean, I think we live in a time period that sometimes words or actions do not mean anything.
Mm-hmm. And
And
to kind of give a brief overview about what he did, he was a network administrator prior to his defecting, if you will. He was a contractor for Bose Allen Hamilton, which was a contractor for, I believe, the NSA, which is not uncommon. You have a lot of private companies, private corporations that do contract work within the ABC organizations, especially within the intelligence community. While he was a network administrator with Bose Allen Hamilton, he worked with the NSA. Prior to that, he worked for the CIA for several years. He was stationed in Germany. According to him, he had diplomatic cover. I mean, he was really an established agent within the intelligence community. He may not have been a clandestine agent per se, but the fact that he was a network administrator, the fact that he was very good with technology, he knew computers, especially within the 21st century. He's a vital asset in order to not only promote and preserve the say, for example, the surveillance program that the NSA and the CIA may have been using, whether on domestic people but also foreigners. But no doubt he's a target, and people are going to see that, especially nations that do not share American interests, do not support American interests or support American foreign policy. They're going to look to exploit that.
yes, and I believe, who knows, maybe the Russians or the Chinese knew that will be the weakest link and approach him. We don't know that. How he came about to be so much anti-surveillance guy. You don't know that because we know even during the Cold War, the then Soviet Union tried to target special people that they will feel a little bit uncomfortable, yes, working with the American intelligence community, but they will feel a little bit uncomfortable or they will offer them money, so on and so forth. We don't know that.
Now,
We know,
this isn't anything new though. This is, I mean, something like that, the exploitation, looking to flip people on the other side. It's about as common and as regular as the sun rising in the morning. Especially during the Cold War, where this was fairly common, especially in Germany, East and West Germany, where there were spy networks all over the place.
yes, it's not new. And even after the Cold War, Russia and China wanted to know about United States, what we think. And both now, Russia and China use cyber activities or entities that they want to spy on us. I mean, each country has its own kind of comfortable environment that can spy and accumulate and collect information. I believe now that guy, as you said, he will be exploited, and that will be detrimental to United States and the U.S. intelligence.
Now, let me ask you this: do you think Snowden is honest when he said that the reason why he exploited the NSA collection program, spy/collection program? Do you believe Snowden when he says that he did it in order to preserve the rights and liberties of the American people?
I believe in his mind believes that. Now we don't know if also offer some money from the other side, but I mean, could be that in his mind he believes that. But again, his actions are not the right way
Well,
to
because he
approach that
fled
kind of crisis.
because he fled to China,
Yes,
and then from China he took refuge in Russia.
yes,
And he said that as much as he wants to leave Russia, he can't because the United States revoked his passport, and understandably so.
yes.
Now, Russia does not want to give up Snowden. Putin can say that, oh well, he's only here temporarily, but I find it ironic that you have an individual who says that the United States government should be held accountable for their spy program and preserve the rights and liberties of American citizens while he's taking refuge in Russia, of all places.
Yes, exactly. And right now that because we have the crisis with Ukraine, I don't think so. Putin will allow to leave Russia. Will milk him until he's over with him. And I don't know if Snowden understands that, or now obviously he believes he does something good. Now later he changed his mind, but the damage is there.
Hmm.
I mean, when you have a leak like that, even the NSA and the whole of intelligence community needs to change many things in order to protect their own assets.
Well, some argue that the reason why that the United States created such an elaborate spy program was in order to protect American citizens, especially after the 9/11 attacks and the passage of the Patriot Act. The United States created this entity in order to protect. And so some may argue, well, how did it protect the American people from, say, the Boston bombers? Well, it's a valid argument. One can see it on both sides. One can see the why such a program is needed, especially in this day and age, in order to effectively monitor and arrest and prosecute potential terrorist suspects. While on the other side, one can argue that it is indeed a violation of American liberties because it could possibly violate the Fourth Amendment. So naturally, there is that debate going on. But one thing is for certain is that spying and data collecting and surveillance and everything else that's entailed in intelligence operations is nothing new. This has been going on for decades, since the Cold War, since before the Cold War, for centuries, in some way, shape, or form. Nations all over the world have created an elaborate or even a primitive, depending on the type of country, spy program in order to preserve and protect and even expand their country's influence.
Yes, that is true. And the problem, if we need to spy on specific American citizens, is to do it for security reasons, special for counterterrorism reasons. Some from both sides are afraid that the president, even if it's a Republican or Democrat, can use that kind of means to spy on political opponents. And that is the problem. And of course, now that we have also a polarized kind of political environment, and the libertarians don't like that kind of a huge government that overlooks you, and part of the Tea Party, they are afraid, and because we have all the IRS kind of crisis and scandals, that the Obama administration used also to spy on specific political opponents. You can create safeguards. Even the Patriot Act has created safeguards. The only thing is up to each administration how it will operate. And as we know, governments, spy agencies, humans are part of these entities. And humans behave as humans. They make mistakes, or they are greedy, or they are political, or they have political aspirations, so on and so forth. Obviously, it's not a perfect plan, but we need that kind of a system because we need to protect the American interest, if and when we use it the right way. That is the thing, the right way.
And in this day and age, we're not dealing with a conventional enemy. One can say that we live in an age where asymmetric warfare is common, where the days of symmetrical or conventional warfare is not as common compared as it was just a few short years ago. Especially within the last 10 years, the rise of terrorist groups, especially within the Middle East, the polarization of American society between left and right is apparent, and so there is obviously that concern where you have a lot of these rebellious groups out there operating and in an attempt to achieve a certain goal, whatever that may be. One can argue that it has become necessary for the United States to protect itself, even through more I don't want to say nefarious means, but certain unorthodox compared to how intelligence collecting has been done before.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And the debate will continue. And in a democracy, these debates, they take a long time. You never had a clear-cut result. The thing is that we need to have all the evidence indicate that now you need to have politicians that they understand these kinds of issues. And also, I don't know how easy is that or how feasible is that, that when you select people to serve the intelligence, they need to pass a strong vet process. That how to investigate their past, what they believe, or how they will behave.
Well, it's interesting because after 9/11, I remember the CIA actively recruiting from newspapers.
Yeah.
I think they even had some television commercials that they had aired a few times within in the early 2000s, and I haven't seen any of that happen, but I do know that after the 9/11 attacks, the intelligence community was hard up for people to people to come within their organization. I know the United States military was looking for more interrogators, for more intelligence collectors, especially in the mid 2000s, where the Iraq War was really flaring up, and really the vetting process and I would venture to guess kind of became secondary. Because as long as they got the people within their ranks, everything else was secondary because they needed people on their staff to do their job. And that job was to collect intel. So we don't know how Snowden was vetted. We don't know, the interviews that he had with all these people. We only have the word of Snowden, as of right now anyways, and Snowden says that he did it in order to protect Americans, but I don't see that happening. I see that as a hindrance because now you have the entire world looking towards the United States and saying that we've essentially become a police state, but at the same time they're looking to exploit that for everything that it's worth, not only from a media perspective where Snowden can be used as a propaganda tool, which I think is what's happening in Russia, but also to gather how exactly the United States uses this program, how this program is developed, what it consists of, who runs it, and everything else in between.
Yes, I agree. It's a difficult debate, and also how to on and off reform the intelligence community. And also to be part of the intelligence community, you need to have certain characteristics, and in order to serve. But again, it's when we, as you said, when we are in a time of crisis, you can get also people that they are not so devoted to that kind of profession.
A few months ago, right around the Sochi Olympics, Snowden, and this is kind of like uh, a head scratcher. Even people to this day are kind of like, why did this happen? But Edward Snowden asked Vladimir Putin if he had spied on his own people, and of course Putin said no. Of course he's going to say no, especially dealing with Edward Snowden, who basically exposed American spy operations against against their own people. So you know you're asking a canned question, and so. So Putin says no, but what's interesting about this is that Andrei Sodotov is an investigative journalist who kind of exposed the SORM program, which is the Russian equivalent to our PRISM or Echelon program in the United States. SORM stands for the System for Operative Investigative Activities, and this was developed by the KGB in the mid 1980s, and it's basically it's now developed to include three branches, which is SORM1, which intercepts telephone traffic, including mobile cell phones. SORM2, which monitors the internet communications, including VoIP, voice over internet protocols, which includes Skype, which is what we're doing the show on, and SORM3, which gathers information from all types of communications media. Now, this information I got is from Moscow News, MoscowNews.com. At least 8 government agencies, among them the FSB, the Federal Security Service, which is the kind of the equivalent to the CIA, the FSKN, which is the Federal Anti-Narcotics Agency. All of them are authorized to carry out surveillance activities. And the Center for Strategic and International Studies kind of did a article about this back on April 18th, which basically says the same thing. The collection process requires a court order, which is similar to that of the United States Patriot Act when it comes to wiretapping, for example, which even predates the Patriot Act. But they also work within various service providers to carry out this intelligence collecting. And according to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, almost 540,000 intercepts of phone and internet traffic were authorized in 2012 alone. Now, this is domestically. This is basically the Russian government spying on the Russian people, and no one ever talks about that. No one ever talks about the other programs that nations, especially Russia, are using different tactics to spy on their own people for the same purposes that the United States is spying on their own people. And so it's become a case of irony where you have an individual like Snowden fleeing to Russia and taking refuge in a country that does the same thing that Snowden is against.
Yes, exactly. And we know Russia and Putin targets his political opponents. That is nothing new. But usually that is sometimes upset. These groups, they complain about United States. They never look about Russia or China, how they behave. And that to me is like kind of hypocritical.
Mm-hmm.
And we know these both countries, they're very heavyweight how to spy on specific political opponents. And if you want to see freedom, well, you talk about other countries, but now we focus only in our country that how we are so convoluted that kind of the intelligence network that we like to spy.
Why do you think that is?
I think obviously these people, these groups, if you're a libertarian or on the left side, they focus more on the domestic. They want to see United States withdraw from international relations. Also, they believe that United States is a bad guy. Many times when I talk to someone from both sides of the political spectrum, they say to me, "Oh, they do that because they see us doing that, and they need to be prepared."
Mm-hmm.
And they don't understand that how the international system works. And I think also it's a industry out there that creates also some money that it's okay to badmouth United States. You have people even here in the United States that they can pay money, they can read books, and they follow that kind of groups that they can badmouth the United States. In Europe and in other countries, a whole industry about conspiracy theories, how United States is the bad guy. Right now, with Russia and how Russia behaves, and with the spying and how Russia behaves in Ukraine, everybody looks United States, not Russia. They think that Russia tries to liberate, and they view that reacts to United States, and that is how the industry, part of that industry works.
So it seems to me that the media is being used as a tool to shift the balance of power.
Yes, we are an open society. It's easily to be criticized. It's easily to find, to study the American government. Even the American government does analysis. I have not seen analysis coming from the Russian government. That means it's easily to criticize the United States because it's an open society. And
Right.
also, you don't have the threat that you're going to be arrested. Well, in Russia, try to criticize Putin, we're going to end up
Well,
in prison.
if I recall, about 10 years ago, there was a investigative journalist that I don't have all the details. I don't know specifically what had happened because it happened a while ago. That he was investigating Putin. He was investigating the Russian government, and probably some nefarious connections Putin had with some individuals. Again, I'm not 100%, but what I do know that he was killed. He was stabbed.
Yeah,
I think he was killed in England, London, and he was stabbed with an umbrella which contained a poison. This is like something out of a spy movie.
yeah,
He was stabbed with an umbrella that was tipped with a poison, and he died on the street. Amazing.
yeah,
And a
yeah.
lot of people think that the Russian government and Putin himself authorized his assassination because he got too close to a story that would completely blow up and probably discredit Putin. Uh, of course, anyone that looks at the situation for what it is, no doubt Putin has a lot of weight, and no doubt he has a lot of the influence, a lot of the power, and he can pull the strings necessary in order to pursue whatever it is that he's trying to pursue. In this day and age, right now, it seems that he's trying to pursue a path that will put Russia on a stronger footing in the world, especially in Europe. And that's why I go back to what I said about the media and how they're being used as a tool in order to shift the balance of power. Because since the end of the Cold War and the collapse of the Russian economy in the 1990s, it took from that point to today to kind of build Russia to where it is today. It's not bad. It's not on the superpower status it once was, but they seem to be in a better position than they were when Boris Yeltsin was in office.
Yes, I agree. And also, Putin has a whole industry, even before Putin, but Putin strengthened it, that how you try to find pro-Russian groups in Europe and you promote certain conspiracy theories.
Well, kind
And that is again,
I don't want to venture into the conspiracy theorist trap, but I do have to ask this for the sake of just understanding the situation better, and it's always good to ask this question regarding the situation. But do you think that Snowden could have been flipped? Now let me add a caveat to that. Snowden had spent some time in Germany. And going back to what I said earlier, Germany was a hotbed for espionage back during the Cold War, and no doubt even after the Cold War, because it's situated right there between East and West. A lot of activity happens in Germany. A lot of things happen in say Switzerland, but Germany historically had been known to be a hotbed for espionage activity. Now, even in the mid 2000s, I would not be surprised if this was still the case. But Snowden worked under diplomatic cover in Germany to help as a network administrator, so he says, and it as a trained network specialist, especially in an age where cybersecurity is prominent, especially when where electronic warfare is kind of taking the forefront of warfare itself. He says that Snowden says that he was trained as a spy, but he never ran sources, he never recruited. But I have to ask, while he was in Germany, and this was I think in 2006 roughly, did he have contact with the Russians? Did he have contact with anyone that operated against American interests? And do you think that, if true, do you think that that kind of led up to this, to what we're seeing today, and him fleeing to Russia, to him exposing the American surveillance program? Do you think that all that stuff is basically a ruse because he was flipped?
Could we don't know that. I mean, could be flipped during his Germany trip or stay in during when he was in the intelligence community. Yes, could that happen? We don't know. I mean, usually from other cases we know that or this kind of stuff they have happened. Maybe they approached him. Maybe they knew. Maybe he went somewhere that indicated he was upset about the United States, and they approached him. No, it's not difficult. I mean, and that creates the environment and the situation that eventually they press him, and they make him flip.
Well, this seems to be a trend going on these days within the media when it comes to counterintelligence exploitation on American intelligence gathering. Uh, Cyber warfare and network leaks, they seem to be on the rise. This is coming after this whole Snowden thing is coming after the whole Bradley Manning incident, which came after the Julian Assange WikiLeaks WikiLeaks of various diplomatic cables and whatnot that talked about that the United States was talking about other foreigners, foreign dignitaries and leaders and whatnot. But this seems to be part of a growing trend in which people, both foreign and domestic, are looking to expose American intelligence.
Yes, because we know that from if you expose American intelligence or you know how they operate, we are the leading country on defense, on intelligence, on other issues. That they want to know how we operate and they want to emulate us. And that is the case. And still, we are the main power, despite even the American government doesn't want to call that. But we are again. They know that if they undermine the United States, they can dominate the system,
Mm-hmm.
and that everybody focuses on us. And we are the after the Second War, we became the leading country also on the intelligence training, collection, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to emulate us to some extent.
There's this book I recently purchased. It's called "This Machine Kills Secrets: How WikiLeakers, Cypherpunks, and Hacktivists Aim to Free the World's Information." It's written by Andy Greenberg, and I haven't read this whole book, but for the parts that I did read, it's basically a pro leakers book, which discusses several individuals. They talk about their lives. They talk about the methods they've used to kind of leak secrets out of various sorts regarding regarding American surveillance and the American intelligence program, and not just that, but also various classified information on what the United States military has been doing in the case of Bradley Manning, who goes by the name Chelsea Manning right now, but Bradley Manning for the sake of cutting down the confusion. And so this is a fascinating book. Granted, I still haven't finished this book. It does dive into the minds and into the ideas of the various leakers going all the way back to the 1990s, and why they're doing this. And this seems to be this idealism about securing the nation and the world's technology and making it free from surveillance. But it seems that the fact of the matter is that in 2014, that's just simply not going to happen, because a lot of activity happens online and people want to know what's going on, especially national governments.
Yes, and that will continue, obviously. But the thing is that we need to protect our interests, our national interest. I mean, and that obviously is a tough in a time that also cybersecurity and internet, is so approachable and so on and so forth. But each country needs to protect its national interest. We have to protect our own national interest. Yes, we need to create a debate. I'm not against that, but the debate needs to focus, needs to be above politics or partisan politics, and see and focus on reality, on issues that can help the intelligence community.
You mentioned reality. It kind of
Yeah.
seems to fall in line with the whole the realist form of thinking, the realist political theory that the whole world is in a constant state of anarchy. Nations are working for themselves. It's all based on the notion of the individual and them looking out for themselves in a state of anarchy. Now, I personally subscribe to that theory, uh, but it seems though that the insertion of this idealistic, almost liberal theory, political theory, where nations can work together and cooperate, it kind of seems to upset the realist form of thinking to the point to where things are even more chaotic, because now that you're exposing the American spy program, both on foreign and domestic operations, you're essentially taking a superpower and you're disrupting its place in in the world, and that is superpower status. That causes a void, a disrupt, and essentially how things are run, the order, if you will. And now you have new contenders coming up. Now you have Russia. Now you have the Chinese, which want to see the United States taken down a peg, so that they can come up and they can rule the roost, if you will. And which causes more anarchy, which causes more conflict. And I think that this is partly due to the idealist nature of a lot of, a lot of the 20 somethings, a lot of the old school hippies who go out there. They want to kind of free society from the bounds of authoritarianism, which is understandable, but they have to understand the consequences that can be brought up due to their actions.
Yes, I agree.
What,
And also, here comes the issue of education, how teachers, professors also educate and they see national security. Because also part of the academia, most of them, they're also on the idealistic, that we can help the world, we can be free of military, intelligence, and everybody will go out and love each other and help the poor. But reality, even if you want to help people that they suffer, you need to see reality first and understand reality in order to reach specific decisions, protecting people, protecting countries, so on and so forth.
what do you think should happen to Snowden?
I don't think so he will come back, but if he comes back, he needs to be tried as a traitor.
Okay.
I mean, that is even how the American law indicates, but I don't think so. The Russians will allow him, or even if they allow him, I don't think he will come here to the United States. I don't think so.
Do you think that he'll take refuge in another country?
Probably China or Cuba or other countries that can be against United States.
I do know that Snowden said that he wanted to come back to the United States, but he feared what was going to happen to him. Now, again, the argument can be made. Well, you knew the risks, and so-called heroes don't turn tail and run. But Snowden had made that concern apparent, and is he going to come back to the U.S.? It's a good question. More nefariously, is the CIA going to do something to him? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
It's basically, is he going to be assassinated? That's far off thinking. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility. Uh, maybe he fell down the stairs. I don't know, but
Yeah,
um, it we'll see what happens, because I personally don't think that he'll come to the United States. He'll probably flee to another country. Um, Maybe something else will happen to him. Who knows?
yeah,
But I do know that because of all these leaks, especially the Prism and the Echelon programs, which the Echelon program goes back to the 1990s, which I don't think was really so much of a focus of the leaks themselves, but more so the Prism program, which not to get into specifics, kind of collected all the data, internet traffic data, cell phone records, and whatnot of American citizens. I believe the encryption business is going to go up.
Yes, I mean, both the business, the private business, and also the public, they need to be protected, and that will go up. I mean, now cybersecurity has become a catchy phrase or a catchy word that everybody wants to know how to protect its own, her or his own interest or the company's interest, not only on public levels but even private levels.
Mm-hmm.
Cybersecurity, I mean, they say even on counterterrorism measures, even if you don't have a good cybersecurity defense, terrorists can have the ability to penetrate nuclear installations, electric installations, and that can create havoc.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, I think, now cybersecurity penetrates our life, private and public, and we need to be ready. We need to be ready how to defend ourselves, and especially we need to be ready to identify it, because it's very, very difficult to know the threat or the attack from which country they came or from which region.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know that we discussed it in our company that it's a technology that identifies your enemy, but also that needs to be upgraded and needs to be cybersecurity changes every day, every hour, because the internet is an infinite kind of technology that helps to, with sometimes not so much expensive technology, to upgrade systems.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And that is the 21st century, that asymmetrical warfare has become a real threat, sometimes more a threat than asymmetrical warfare that you can see and take measures.
well, we'll leave it there. Vassilios, thank you again for coming on here and
Thank you.
discussing. We do plan on having more people on here, just so everyone knows, people who are watching this. We do have a lot of people that we're in constant contact with different expertise. It's just a matter of scheduling. So it's more convenient for Vassilios and myself to actually talk. But we do plan on having more people on here discussing more specific issues. So please stick around for that. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time out listening to our program. I hope you took something away from it. And please tune in next time where on the conversation. So thank you very much, and have a good day. Vassilios, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.